April, thank you very much for taking the time today. Really appreciate it. It will be great if you also introduce yourself, and then we are excited to hear your perspective about change management. It's your time. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Really grateful to be here with all of you today. As Dio said, my name is April Mills, and I'm a change obsessed, I would say, person, passionate about helping change agents worldwide create the changes they want. And maybe that term change agent is a new term for you. And I hope today to spark much interest in who these change agents are and all the great things they can do. My history, I'm an engineer by training, but I got into the realm of change because I was really passionate about helping organizations create the outcomes they wanted, right? That's the engineer in me. I love seeing something work. And if it doesn't work, figuring out why it doesn't work. And so years ago, when I was an engineer for the US Navy, I got really interested in why weren't some of the business processes we were using working. And that was my first exposure to creating organizational change. And it's led me on a wonderful journey of helping organizations and individuals and communities make the changes happen that they most desire. So I'm really excited to be here with all of you to talk today on this topic of everything is change and everyone is a change agent. Let me get my slides going. So we're here in ACMP, right? The Association of Change Management Professionals. So we've got a bit of a background in change. We understand where the industry has come. Well, if we think about it, change as an industry has changed a lot since the mid-90s when John Kotter had published his book, Leading Change, and really sparked an interest in change worldwide. And when ProSci was founded, right, back in 1994, ProSci was founded and brought forward their ADKAR model. These two things, John Kotter, ProSci, these are things that most people in the change community know a lot about. And 1990 now was, what, 30 years ago, over 30 years ago. So what's happened in the past 30 years in our industry to change the way change happens? Well, you know, Kotter, ProSci, and others are continuing to create fresh ideas to help both change leaders, those deploying and directing change in organizations and communities, and change managers, those of us in ACMP, those who have a role assigned to create a change. There's been a lot of fresh ideas for change leaders and change managers from Kotter and ProSci and others over the years. But there's something more. You see, change managers, if you were to look at an organizational org chart, is a small subset. Some would argue maybe too small of a subset, but a small subset of most organizations, right? We're a small but mighty team within organizations, or we branch out into our community here even, small but mighty community. And we augment and support a larger community with some overlap of change leaders. And usually change managers and change leaders are the ones that are spending most of their time trying to figure out change. But I would argue we are leaving out a much larger market of people who can get involved in, embrace, and help create the changes we need. And those are the change agents. You see, every change manager and every change leader should also be a change agent. But not every change agent, and in fact, most change agents will never be a change manager in a change manager role. And they might never be what we might consider a change leader, somebody either in a hierarchical position or organizationally, assigned to create a change. But we can focus on that larger community of change agents and bring them into the opportunity to create change. And I would argue that is our biggest opportunity as people who believe in change, are investing in our change skills, and want to make remarkable change happen in the world. Our big opportunity is to focus on change agents. So today I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about change agents, who they are, what they can do, how we can serve them, so that with these change agents, both ourselves and these others that we can help bring out that change agent in them, we can create powerful change in our organizations, in our communities, and in our lives. Now, throughout my talk today, I would love it if you've got a question, please put it in the chat when you have it. Don't hold it for the end. I'm going to take a lot of Q&A. I set aside a ton of time for us to have a dialogue, a conversation. So be ready for that at the end. But ask your question in the chat when you have it. I'm going to take all those questions that we get in the chat at the end. First come, first served as well. But I would love it if you'd ask your questions when you have them. And then at the end, I'll make sure I cover as many of those as I can in this session. And if I can't cover them all, I'll respond afterwards. So again, talking about change agents, this big market of change agents that are out there. So expand our thinking from just change managers and just change managers focusing on influencing change leaders, to imagining the person to the left of you and the right of you as change agents. And here's the insight I've had that has powerfully shifted how I approach change in any situation. And that insight is that tactics designed for change managers and change leaders rarely work for change agents. But tactics designed for change agents are amplified when change managers and change leaders use them too. So you see, we have a powerful opportunity to bring tactics to change agents that they can use. And as change managers and change leaders, use those same tactics ourselves and amplify the impact that we're creating today on tomorrow's and the future's changes. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And the call to action I have for you throughout this presentation and at the end is that as somebody who invests their time in attending a talk like this and watching, say, the video afterwards of a video like this, is that you can light that spark of change agency, of change ability, of remarkable change, not just for a few folks, but really you have the opportunity to touch multitudes, because the market for change managers is served. The market for change leaders is growing, but the market for change agents is barely tapped. So many people don't see their potential in that space, but if you do, if you can see it, if you can show it to them, you now have so many more people to help you create the powerful changes you're seeking and help them create the powerful changes they're seeking together. So you can light that way for the multitudes when you'll bring a fresh approach to change and change agency. And that's that fresh approach that I want to give you and talk about today. And if you're enjoying any of these illustrations, I just want to give a shout out early to my beautiful illustrator, Sarah Moyle, who does all of these illustrations for me for my books and does such a beautiful job of conveying the joy and opportunity we have when we take this fresh approach and change our tactics. So I hope you won't just enjoy the presentation today, but I hope you'll also enjoy the beauty of her illustrations and how she brings these concepts to life. So change, it's a modification, a simplification, a transformation. We can imagine all kinds of different words that we would use to describe change. And oftentimes we think of change as a process change or an organizational change or maybe a business goal shift. And those are all changes we often work on in our work. But I'd like to expand your definition of change as well to things beyond just the assignments at work, the consulting agreements, the projects we're brought in on. Instead, to picture both those things in your work, but also things in your community and things in your life, and a broader sense of opportunities that you can bring your skills to bear to solve. For example, one of the stories I often tell is about leveraging these change agency skills we're going to talk about today, not just to solve problems in an organization, but also to solve problems in the community. And these are pictures from a playground project designed to take a non-accessible playground where this boy here is my friend's son, Gabe, desperately wanted to play with his friends, and nothing in the playground was set up to support him in his wheelchair. To the moment where his mother and I and many others worked on a change project out in our community as change agents to build an accessible playground where Gabe was included and able to play anywhere and everywhere with his peers. So if we expand our idea of change, you can expand the opportunities, not just for yourself, but for so many others through the changes you make and the impact those have in people's lives. Forgive me, I'm getting over a cold. And then if we think about change agents and we include, like that Venn diagram I had before, it's anyone who leads a change, anyone who guides a change, and also anyone who experiences a change and influences a change. Those are our change agents, a broader sense of folks. So it's not just that senior leader, it's not just that change manager, it's anyone and everyone who believes that a change should happen and is willing to work to create it. Those are our change agents. That is our market. That is our opportunity. So it's yes, and yes, all those change managers at the change manager events like us here today. Yes, those leaders that are directing organizations. Yes, those elected officials. Yes, all of them, and everyone else too. And this is a picture of that playground project group, all the community members that in a small or significant way helped to create that playground for those children with special needs, helped Rebecca and I to bring that dream to reality. It was not because they were all change managers. It was not because they were all change leaders. They would never have painted themselves in either of those roles, but they did believe they could be change agents, and they did believe they could do wonderful and powerful things. And we're going to talk about what were a few things that we helped them to see, and they helped us to see, that were the transformative effect that opened up this market of change agents and allowed us as people who were passionate and believed in change and had some, right, Cotter, pro-sci training in change, to actually bring that bigger market out. So the two fresh ideas that I want to share with you so you can help the change agents arrive in their change agency, leverage it, share it, influence changes around them for you, with you, together. It's two key things. The first one we'll talk about what these terms mean is derive change, not people. And the second is live the change agent's motto. Now, those two concepts are probably new, so we're going to go into them. So by the end of this, if you remember anything out of this, you'll remember and know, drive change, not people, and live the change agent's motto. And if you can help change agents adopt those two fresh ideas, there's, I would argue, barely a limit to what changes you can create in your community, in your life, in your work, and in the world. So the first here, drive change, not people. Don't wait for some senior manager or official to compel the change. This is usually the error I find a lot of people making. They want something in their lives, they want something in their world, but they're waiting for somebody to grant them permission to do it. But I challenge change agents not to wait. You don't have to be that senior official. But I don't fault people for assuming this when they start. Why? Because we usually use, unfortunately, this concept I call driving people, using coercion to compel others to change. We usually use this to make change happen. Whether it's a senior official ordering people to do something, that change leader trying to say, thou shalt do this, or it's the change manager. And yes, Sarah was nice enough to draw me in this space, pushing on people, because this is what I used to do, pushing people to adopt the change, right? Driving the people, forcing them forward to get my change to happen. This is the status quo. In most organizations and most change managers I talk to, it's a wealth of they should do this by then, or usually the change leader gets angry. But I'd argue there's a better way, because even if that works for some change leaders, and even if that works for some change managers to push people and see, I got them there, it doesn't work for change agents. They don't have the authority, they don't have the role. And when somebody comes along and tries to shove on other people, it's easy to ignore them, it's easy to avoid them, it's easy to wear them out and make them go away. So if they're a change agent and they're running on their enthusiasm, not on their position and not on their authority, what can they do instead of driving people? This is the key. They can drive change. And driving change, I define as choosing a change for yourself and clearing the obstacles for others to choose it too. You see, in any change that we want to make, if I'm willing to put myself out there, if I'm willing to invest my time in it, if I'm willing to go deep to understand it and work with people around me to say, I'd love for you to join me. Tell me what stops you from joining me. And I'll work on removing that obstacle. With that tactic of driving change, not people, everyone can be a change agent. Everyone can be out front. And anyone can create the powerful changes they want. Whether it's shifting a community, whether it's changing a process at work, whether it's transforming a habit they have themselves. If you'll drive change and choose it for yourself and clear your own obstacles for you to keep choosing it every day and for others to choose it too, you can achieve wonderful and powerful things. And if we as change managers and we coach change leaders to drive change, not people, you can see that explosive power, that positive energy that is unleashed when a leader stops saying, thou shalt do what I don't do, and instead says, I believe in this. Here's what I'm doing to make this happen. Here's how I've cleared the obstacles for you to join me. What's stopping you? Join me. We'd all want to follow that leader who is role modeling, committing, investing, and supporting. And their influence only grows. When they're up on stage and they're telling us, thou shalt, we're listening. But when they're up on stage and telling us, I'm going and I want you with me, we're on our feet and running to join them. Same thing as a change manager. If we shift from driving people to driving change, we unlock a wealth of potential, of partners, of influencers, of advocates for what we're trying to create in the system by saying, I believe enough to clear these obstacles for you, please join me. And those change agents, those wonderful, powerful change agents throughout our organizations can stand up from wherever they're at, show their enthusiasm for the change, get on board, get involved, be one of those people in that great playground picture who says, here's what I can do and I'm willing to do it. You see, when they do that, when they drive change, they're also doing that fresh idea number 2. Because it's not the change that matters, it's how you drive it. Many times I hear people saying, well, you know, it was a bad change. We had a bad goal. It was too hard. Yeah, we were never going to make it. And the funny thing is when somebody's telling me that story, usually over here, a competitor has the same mountain and they're getting to the top faster. You see, it's not the change you're trying to make that determines your success. I fully believe it's how you choose to drive that change. Because if you're willing to say, I'm willing to go all in, I'm willing to figure this out, I'm willing to learn and stumble, and I'm willing to clear the obstacles for you to join me, you will keep going no matter how tough it is. But if you say, you have to because the boss said, you have to because the quarterly say, you have to because the rule says, the boss leaves, the quarter shifts, the rule changes, and people sit back down, and they never make it to the top of that mountain. But there's nothing, I believe, we can't do if we'll choose to drive change. And building on that, as change agents, as people who are helping unlock change agents who don't even know they are change agents, that second fresh idea is the change agent's motto. You see, we're not asking anybody to do anything beyond what is within their ability. But if everyone focuses on what they can do with what they have, where they are, that's the many hands that make the work light, that make the journey wonderful, where everyone shows up bringing what they can. And if people will do that, if change agents will choose to do that themselves, what you will find is that the limited amount of energy you thought was possible for your change multiplies and grows. And as one person shows up and says, I'll do what I can with what I have where I am, that role modeling spreads, that little spark of light and enthusiasm spreads. And it's like the moth to the flame, others will join them. And they'll come and say, well, I don't have much. I'm only a worker. I'm only a citizen. I'm only a, and they'll fill in the blank. But from that spot, instead, we can help them see, you are amazing. What do you have? What do you know? What can you bring? What can you share? How hard are you willing to work with me on this? And all they have to do is show up with their best self, and you'll be surprised how much farther you'll get. So everything is change, not just things at work, but also out in the community, in our lives, in our families, in our homes. Everything is changing these days. But to that everything is change, if we can add everyone is a change agent, and they can do wonderful and powerful things, then now the only limit to what we can achieve is the strength of our change tactics. And I truly believe that change agents who are driving change deserve a wealth of tactics designed for them, not designed for change leaders or change managers who have authority or roles or that prestige to compel a change, but for change agents to work on their passion, their enthusiasm, bring that out and allow those strengths and their honest limitations of what they can't, what they don't have readily available. If we can design fresh tactics for them, there's no limit to what they can't do. Hence, my focus for the past now more than a decade has been on serving change agents as those larger markets that change managers and change leaders need, of awesome, effective people who can bring change forward, who can partner to create change, who can amplify and accelerate change. if they work with us as change managers and leaders to do wonderful and remarkable things. So my two books, the first one, Everyone is a Change Agent, and the newest one out this past summer, Change Tactics. Both were written to bring tactics to change agents so that they have everything they need to be their most successful, presuming that they will drive change, not people, that they won't have power and authority to compel others to change. And even if they did, they wouldn't want to use it because they'd rather role model and lead from the front. And so these two books bring forward, I'll talk about a few different things that are in them that I've designed to really help unlock this change agent market, unlock their capacity, and help you as change managers and change leaders build a wider set of people within your organizations, within your communities, within your lives, who are as passionate and capable about creating wonderful, powerful change as you are. So the first book, Everyone's a Change Agent, distills down what I'd argue are 7 change agent essentials. Forgive me, I'm getting over a cold. And those 7 change agent essentials start with driving change, not people, and then expand out to simple tactics that build on driving change. For example, change tactic 2, create and maintain change buffers. These, much like project buffers, protect a change from the status quo until it is strong enough to stand on its own. Setting a concrete goal. This is key if you've got limited resources, limited time, limited authority, to focus on something specific, meaningful, and obvious to help gather others to want to go with you. Change agent essential 4, map the terrain. If you're not in charge of a whole area, you need to understand who is. Whose job is it? Whose job did it used to be? Who can be a partner for me? Who relies on what I'm working on? And if you'll do that, you'll find more change agents just waiting to help you. Change agent essential 5, challenging assumptions. You see, we all come in with assumptions about who they are and who we are and what we can do and what we can't and why it should. And if we can't get past all those assumptions down to the reality, we can't partner with each other to both be the change agents that we are to achieve the changes we want. So change agent essential 5 helps you unlock some of those assumptions so you can get stronger connections and deeper purpose and get your results. And change agent essential 6 is focusing on sustainment so that you don't do all the work and then turn around and the result disappears. How can you make it something that sticks and lasts? And obviously change agent essential 7, if you do all of this setting it up and you don't try, you'll never find the result that you wanted. So the first book, Everyone's a Change Agent, takes a change agent, a change manager, a change leader through those essentials. So you can say, yep, I'm equipped, I'm ready, and I'm able to drive this change from wherever I'm at with whatever I've got right now. And then to build on that, for those who are hungry for more, I put out Change Tactics this summer, which includes 50 tactics to break from that status quo of driving people. Because change agents can't go in and order and direct and force and compel, but what they can do is win people and win more people. And through that, win their change to the outcomes that they're seeking. And so to go deeper and to unlock some of those status quo traps of driving people, I put out Driving Change, which is a change tactics for driving change, which is a bit like a recipe book for change agents of, if you're in this situation, try this. So quick tips that everyone can use. So they work for change agents, they work for change managers, they work for change leaders to unlock greater value for them. I believe the world is full of change and change agents. I think your experience too will tell you this is true. So many people feel like change is coming at them like a wave, and they just want to hold back the wave. But what the past few years have taught us is we can't hold back the wave. All we can do is do what we can with what we have, where we are, and choose the change for ourselves and clear the obstacles for others so that we can light the way for multitudes, not to be victims of change, but to be empowered agents to create those powerful changes. Forgive me, my cold. The end of all of this is just, why not start today? I'm so grateful to be here with you. I guess this is good. My voice is starting to give out, so maybe you're going to have to ask some questions and tell me some stories so my voice can recover, and I'm happy to answer your questions today. I'm so grateful to be here with you and so excited to share this. Hopefully it's been fresh, fun, with some lovely illustrations. Thanks.
April, thank you very much. Great presentation. And we have questions. Just a minute. Eugene Pohato, sorry for my pronunciation. Thank you for organizing and hosting. My question is, oftentimes change agents on their respective teams have their equal opposite, the anti-changers, that are often an opposing wind to progress. How do we deal with team members who are threatened by change without causing conflict? Is there a polite or respectful way to bring about change with others' feelings in mind? Should we, as change agents, be prepared to cause conflict in our work, no matter our approach?
Wow, great question. It's probably a whole book just to answer that one. But what I would say is that there's a lot of different tactics to help lower the temperature that comes in when you're creating these changes. Frequently, one of the major things that brings up resistance to a change is driving people. It's the coming in and saying, I know better how to do your job and you should listen to me. Here's my list of all the things that you must do by the dates that I said. And if you don't do it, I'm going to tell your boss. Now, if anybody did that to us, we'd be angry, even the nicest person. So unfortunately, when we drive people, first we create resistors, then we try to come up with tactics to get rid of them. If you instead shift it to driving change, the big opportunity is to say, I believe in this. I'm going to make it as easy as possible for me to do this, for others that are excited about it to do it. And then I'm going to go find the folks who aren't excited about it and work different tactics to get them to share with me, if they will, why. You see, sometimes you have to, figure out from your experience with somebody what might be stopping them. But a lot of times the nicest thing is just to go ask, of like, look, there's this change over here. I'm super passionate about it. And you don't seem as excited about it. I'm really curious. What about this doesn't appeal to you? Or, there's lots of different ways you can frame this question. And then you shut your mouth and you listen. And sometimes you find out something that is directly related to the change, like you're giving me a new tool and it doesn't work for this workflow I need. And sometimes you hear things that are off to the side. Look, I can't care about your change right now. I'm going through troubles in my marriage. My kid is sick. We like to read into situations that it's all about us when we're not getting the response we expect. Oftentimes it's not. And that's part of that challenging assumptions and driving change and clearing the obstacles, is to say, I'm going to get curious about what's holding you back. Now, you could find that, you want to go one way and they think the right answer is to go the other. And for a while, maybe you just agree to disagree. And as long as it doesn't, hurt your system outcomes and you can delay it, you can say, okay, I haven't won you. I'm going to go off and do this, get some results. Maybe the results will win you and we'll talk about it again in 3 months. But I find too often, a lot of times, change managers are focused on winning the resistors and overcoming them instead of learning, making the change better, helping people pivot. You're right, people aren't going to always like you when you're making these changes happen, but you need to like yourself and like the tactics that you're using. And by opening yourself up to those comments from people, hopefully that'll help them lower their resistance and get on board too. Forgive me, I got a cough again. So maybe the next question.
Okay, the next question. Minton Brooks. It can be scary to take up the banner of change as a change agent, but what if we do not have the magnetism of, say, April? It takes courage, does it not?
So what I've found is there's this false notion of this magnetism of the change agent, that they naturally have it. Sweet of you to say, if you're saying that I have it, I appreciate that. But it actually, I've found that folks who believe in something and are willing to talk about what they believe in, even if you would have said, you know, I don't see a sparkle in this person before that, get them on a topic they love and believe in, and everybody sparkles. Years ago, I gave out what I called sparkler medals to over 200 people in the organization I was in, who were believing in a change, driving a change, being a change agent. And because every single one of them, it was like this illustration. As they walked down the sidewalks, walked down the halls in the office, you could just, if you were looking for it, you could see it. There was just a sparkle. And so it's not something that's bequeathed to you by a senior leader. It's not something that you have to have been born with. It really is a choice to believe in something enough to put your effort into it and be open enough to the fact that not everybody's going to love it as much as you do, but you can clear the obstacles, hopefully, that will help them join you, and you will start to glow. It's one of the best things in all of my work is to see that happen. And I just hope that all of you get to see that in others and in yourselves too.
Thank you. Another question, April. James Bambury. Why do you think the market of change agents has remained untapped for so long? Is it a lack of opportunity identification, a lack of capability and skills for them to use, or lack of permission within their environment?
I would say that the market of change agents has remained untapped because the status quo of driving people convinces them that they aren't change agents, that they have no role except as conscripts. And if the society tells you, whether that's your organizational society or your community, sit and wait to be told, you'll sit and wait to be told. And I don't fault people for that. But we who know better have an opportunity to do better, have an opportunity to sparkle ourselves and help others catch that positive contagion of change agency. And through that can shift what people think is normal in an organization. So I went from an organization that once joked, how many workers does it take to change a light bulb? That classic sort of gag. And the punchline in that organization was change. We don't change anything. To one where you would be amazed at how many diverse folks from diverse disciplines, from diverse levels in the organization, from diverse backgrounds, were able to create change. And that's actually a really important aspect too, as many organizations are dealing with this challenge of diversity and inclusion, is how do we help more people see, I don't need to wait for someone to pick me. I am enough as I am, and I can go and do wonderful and powerful things. We can help people see that, and then we'll open that market up. It's been hiding in plain sight, and I want to help more people see it.
Donghui Kai, could you give some examples on how to make the first step easy?
So the first step, easy. I would say decide what you're willing to say you want to create, right? So it is as simple as saying, I want to make this happen. Now, the concrete goal way is the more official, right? We said by as soon as possible, children and adults with special needs in Bremerton, Washington will have a beyond accessible playground. Forgive me, my voice. And that was our goal, build an accessible playground. And we just started by starting to tell everybody that was our goal, and we were doing all we could to make it happen. And did they want to join us? So it is almost as silly as that. It might seem silly if just tell everybody that you're talking to, not in a badgering like 15 times a day, but in a, bring it up, keep bringing it up. This is what I'm working on. This is what I'm excited about. Do you want to get involved? And most people will probably say no, or they'll watch you for a while and see if you're really serious. But a few folks will say yes. And whether you're at first by yourself for a while, or it's just 2 or 3 of you, you're on your way, and don't let things stand in your way. That's sort of the myth of organizational change. Until the CEO approves it, it's not real. Until the finance officer budgets for it, we can't do anything. That's why a lot of organizations are struggling with the rate of change, because your CEO is never going to have enough good ideas for things that need to happen. And your CFO is never going to have enough money to fund everything at the corporate initiative level. But you can create wonderful and powerful change where you are if you will do what you can with what you have where you are, and just start there. And if you want more tactics, Change Tactics is full of all these little bits of but what abouts, and you can cover a lot of them there.
Okay, and the last question from Kirsten Hansen. Any advice for an approach with teams who cite bandwidth or resourcing issues as the obstacle for dedicating time towards change efforts? The type of change activities which would deliver time-saving solutions they need?
Great question. So a few things that are options is to talk with the team about, what's taking up most of your time, and how can I help you accelerate that? And there's simple things oftentimes that are stopping teams. Things like they're multitasking, they're not focusing and finishing. So they get through the end of a day and they don't actually have anything done. So the next day is even more behind. So you might come in and say, well, I can help you with something. Can I answer the phone while you focus? Can I chase down details for you so you can get more done? I'm willing to put a week into helping you catch up if you're willing to then put a day into helping me. You see, if you value their time enough to invest yourself in them, and to say, if that's an obstacle, here's what I can do, or what else could I do to remove that obstacle? You'll quickly run them through their different excuses to the point where there's something they can say yes to. And maybe they can't say yes right now, but if you're saying, I'm willing to do a little bit here, and as soon as you're ready, come talk to me, what you'll find is you'll grow that relationship, because change happens in relationships. The fastest way to form relationships is to offer to do something kind for someone else, not expecting anything in return, but offering it to build that relationship so you can make things happen. So I've found most teams, I can get them through that if I do those types of things. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you very much, April. Really, really appreciate it. And also thank you very, very much for all the attendees. So see you next Change Management Booster Series, ACMP Turkey event. Thank you, April.
Thanks so much for having me. Have a wonderful day, evening,
Have a nice day.
Whatever time it is. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.